Hello, once again, wrestling fans. It's the ROB, it's the real Bobby Munson coming at you with another audio recording in the latest edition of Rob's Rockin' Wrestling. Yes, it's been a little while. I did a few recordings last week, each after individual shows. I guess it'd be a little bit much, so I'm going to try a different format and do a little bit less recordings, but give a lot more information in those recordings. So might be a little bit more interesting. So consider this one more like the Raw versus SmackDown. Which show was better? What could be improved? What I liked about each show? And as always, I hope that you guys get involved in the conversation. Message me on Twitter, retweet this, leave some comments down in the YouTube comments section, and make sure to subscribe to my channel as well. It'd be a big help. Thank you. Appreciate that. So it's a warm one here in the Great White North. Yes, we're sitting at warm temperatures as we head into the Canada Day long weekend. So yes, July 1st, for anybody who's listening outside of Canada, July 1st is actually Canada's birthday. This year is our 150th birthday. So yes, this Saturday, I guess, July the 1st will be Canada's 150th birthday. So a lot of celebrations going on here in the Great White North. And so, with that being said, let's move on to the wrestling. And yes, we'll start with what went down on Monday Night Raw this week. Night got started off Roman Reigns coming out to his typical sea of booze. Yes, the fans clearly still not behind Roman Reigns, and you know what? It makes it that much more fun. I think I enjoy Roman Reigns more the more that the WWE universe want to hate on him. I think it's fantastic, to be honest. I personally have never disliked Roman. I've always thought Roman was, somebody who had skill. He has the look of a superstar. Yes, I understand why a lot of the faithful WWE universe have it in for him. A lot of it to do with the pushing him to the top, making him into this invincible Superman of sorts. But you know what, folks? In the process, they have created a name. Whether you love him or you hate him, they have created a name that is being talked about day in and day out. Whether you currently watch the product closely like I do or not, you know who Roman Reigns is at this point, if you know anything about wrestling. And he's starting to become a very big household name, which you can't deny. So he comes out, usual stick, talking about, it's his yard and this, that, and the other. And of course, that's when the ambulance starts backing in. So Roman knows something's up. He goes up the rampway. He's getting close to the ambulance. That's when Braun. Yes, Braun Strowman comes out, makes the attack on Roman Reigns, takes him onto the rampway, and tosses him off the rampway into the side of the ambulance, which was a really, really nice sick bump. Again, it's not the most dangerous of bumps on the planet, but they make it look good, and it's a cool spot to do, especially to build this ambulance match coming up between the two. Great balls of fire. Oh my god, it hurts me to even say that name. It's hard to do without cracking a smile. But yes, so anyway, Roman is tossed in the back of the ambulance, just like you have to do to your opponent in an ambulance match. So at Great Balls of Fire, if that happens, Braun Strowman would walk away the winner of the match. Moving on from there, first match of the evening was a pleasant little surprise, having the Hardy Boys team up with Finn Balor to take on Sheamus, Cesaro, and Elias Sampson. Once again, Elias Sampson was going to sing a song. He's got his special guests of Sheamus and Cesaro there. That's when he's interrupted by the Hardy Boys music coming down. I think Elias is playing into his character really well right now. WWE's putting a lot of faith into him, which is great to see. He's taking the ball and rolling with it. Raw doing their best to create a new star, which is something that they were heavily criticized for in this roster shakeup originally. They weren't creating new faces where SmackDown was, and I'm not saying SmackDown isn't right now, but again, Raw is doing their job at the moment. I mean, they are trying to mix things up, shake it up a little bit. And here's a perfect example with Elias Sampson, bringing him over, a virtual unknown from NXT, which is almost good in a sense because, we weren't so overexposed to him over in NXT that it became stagnant or anything. So it's really working on the main roster. With that being said, though, Finn Balor managing to hit the coup de grace towards the end of the match on Cesaro and picks up the win for his team. So Finn Balor and the Hardy Boys walking away victorious. Great night for all guys involved. It was a good way to start off the night in terms of in-ring action. Up next, the long-awaited rivalry match between Goldust and R-Truth, and Goldust coming out to a very familiar look, I guess, so to speak, especially if you were a product of the 80s and 90s. Not saying that he came out in the 80s, but I grew up watching wrestling in the 80s, led into the 90s, and in the 90s is when we saw the introduction of the original Goldust with his then valet Marlena. I believe I've got that name correct. I hope so. This time a little bit different, so the whole 24 karat gold productions and all of that is there. His old costume, old gimmick suit is all there. The difference was this time he's got a golden cameraman following him around, so interesting to see where that is going. They didn't go too far in this match other than being used as a bit of a distraction. The match never even actually got underway as the distraction was created and Goldust attacked R-Truth and gave him a beatdown. Interesting way to go with this one, all this build to this and it ends in that. So I'm thinking that maybe these two are going to lock up at Great Balls of Fire, possibly in the kickoff show. I'm not sure, but the general idea here, I like it. I hope that it's used to push Goldust a little further. No offense to R-Truth, but they have the possibility to allow Goldust to have one really strong run here that people could get behind. I think with this particular character change, people can get behind the idea of Goldust as a top competitor, at least somebody who could contend for the Intercontinental title and give him an Intercontinental title opportunity prior to him calling it a day on his career. Yes, so moving on from there, the dreadful part of doing these things is talking about garbage. And you want to talk garbage, and this is no offense to The Miz at all. This was not your fault. So Mike Mizanin, Mike Miz, I know I should be using your in-ring name, so yes, The Miz. If you happen to be listening, which I know you're not because you have better things to do than listen to some fat jackass talk about wrestling on the internet, then I just have to say I'm sorry for what I'm about to say, but this was the most garbage piece of television that WWE has produced just about ever. The whole Bailey This Is Your Life segment that happened recently was just awful TV, and people criticized it hard. But you know what? At least there was something there in terms of it leading to where the direction of the company was going. It still tied into the Alexa and Bailey feud. I mean, it was bad. Don't get me wrong. I am not defending that segment. But this one last night, where they had brought out the Ball family, these basketball players, and I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with basketball, so I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like I know much about these guys. But they bring them out for this whole celebrity BS in-ring promo thing, and it went off the rails and was total nonsense. First of all, it should have never happened. This was not something that should have ever been put onto television. WWE has actually put out an apology statement due to one of the members of the Ball family. I believe it was the weird-looking old man that would run around like a chicken with his head cut off when he took his shirt off in the ring. I believe it was him in particular that dropped what they're considering a racial slur. Again, I've read what it says. I'm not going to say, either way. I'm not going to get involved in that kind of thing. It's not my cup of tea to get involved in nonsense like that. But WWE has issued an apology statement to anyone who was offended by the comments made in the ring that night. And this is not a good look for WWE when that kind of thing happens. Guys in that back dressing room have been told, you can't say this, you can't do this, you can't say this. They're sticking to the rules that are set by the WWE, and then some. As far as I'm concerned, virtual nobodies get asked to come out as guests and they just start dropping whatever the hell they want to on that show. I think it's ridiculous. I think that upper management should be a little bit ashamed of themselves for even allowing a segment like this to be introduced. You just recently debuted the Miz Taraj and should be building on that angle a little bit more, but instead, you had to filter in this really, like, it was a fairly long segment of bullshit, total bullshit. And it just went on until Dean Ambrose came out, and you're thinking, oh my god, I've never been happier to see Dean Ambrose in my entire fucking life. And then Dean comes out wearing a big baller shirt or whatever. They make a bunch of fucking testicle jokes, and it's even, pardon my language here, they make a bunch of testicle jokes, make jokes about the pay-per-view name, which, I mean, that's old news. We've been doing that since they announced it. And then nothing. There was no him preventing the segment going on much longer other than cutting to commercial. I don't know. It seemed very unbalanced. It was a waste of television time. They could have been doing a lot more with a lot better people. I hope that they learn from this and never do stupid things like this again. I shouldn't say never, because they will do stupid things again. Just hopefully they take this and say, screw it with its celebrities. If the celebrities can't be trusted, then they don't need to be on WWE television. Moving on from there, this led to a match. It was Miz and his Miztourage, consisting of Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas, taking on Ambrose, Rhino, and Slater. So yes, the Miztourage being announced. This was a good look for Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, who are two guys that I think have deserved more for a long time, and hopefully this will definitely work out for them. I am personal fan of both of them. I think that they can do so much more than they've been able to show currently within the WWE landscape, so I'm hoping that this definitely works out. Previous people have managed to do well working with the Miz and everything, so I hope that this will be that push that both Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas need. The Miz and his Miztourage picking up a big win in this match in particular, so definitely looking good for the Miz and his Miztourage. From there, we went to Enzo Amore coming out, and I've just got to say right here, right now, before I even start talking about this segment, that props to Enzo Amore and Big Cass for what they have put into this particular promo storyline kind of thing. It would be easy for them to just, shrug it off, and or even like not be able to pull it off, I guess is the better word, being that they're such close friends. So when you're asked to, turn on a close friend in storyline, it's hard to do and keep it looking legit at the same time. But these two have managed to keep it looking legit, and on Monday night was no exception to that at all. Enzo coming out referring to Cass as family, and that he is ready to forgive him. He understands what's been going on, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to get those two back together. Cass comes out, and he's given this whole look of sympathy, like, I understand, I'm not myself right now, I did the wrong thing, I gotta make up for it. He hugs Enzo, and I mean, guys, I saw this come from a mile away, but at the same time, not to take away from it and say that it was bad, it was well executed. I just knew it was coming. The two of them get to the top of the rampway. Big Cass clobbers Enzo. And the emotion and the passion these two are putting into this current storyline is excellent. It feels like there's real emotion there. It feels legit. And that's what acting is about. So props to both Enzo and Cass. You guys are doing this brilliantly. It is a great thing to see. And I feel like what you've done here tonight on Monday Night Raw this week helped redeem Raw after the bullshit that they put on in that Miz TV segment prior to that. So, moving on from there, talking about segments that don't really do a whole lot for the show. Rollins taking on Kurt Hawkins. Okay, whatever. I don't have much to say about this, guys. At the end, Bray Wyatt coming out, still kind of running his mouth about, what Rollins used to be, how he's kind of lying to himself about who he is, and so on and so on. I love Bray Wyatt, love Rollins, both great competitors, but where is the spark in this whole thing? Like right now it just seems like Bray's coming out and running his usual stick without any real direction of where he wants to take it at this point. Like, is he trying to make people realize what Rollins used to be, what Rollins is capable of, that there is this darkness inside of him? Is he trying to bring that back out? Is he what is Bray's end game? Would be nice to know. I think at this point we deserve to know a little bit more to make us invest in the feud, and right now we're not getting it, so hard for me to say that I can get invested in Rollins and Wyatt at the moment. I mean, they still haven't officially announced anything between the two of them at Great Balls of Fire, so I guess we'll wait and see how that plays out. But, just when WWE drops the ball, they reel it back in. And I'm going to go on record, I am not a big Brock Lesnar fan at all. In fact, I don't like Brock Lesnar since he's come back to the WWE. I used to enjoy him back in the day when he first started out. I think he's just gotten bored of it, to be honest. It seems like he doesn't care enough anymore, and it really it comes across to us as fans, especially us who invest so much time into this, that a guy like that walks in, and yes, I know he's a big boy, he's a big attraction, he's got a name for him and stuff like that. I understand the wanting to use him in their company, but at the same time, as a true wrestling fan, it's hard to invest in a guy who doesn't want to invest his time properly back into the industry that we as the fans love so dearly. So it would be nice if he would show a little bit more respect to the industry, but he doesn't. So therefore, we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. We know he's not going away anytime too soon. We know that title is likely sitting around him for a while, but who knows, because they have really done an excellent job of making Joe look like an ultimate badass. The betting odds would still be that Lesnar's holding on to that title. I can't see them taking it off of him, but as WWE put themselves in a difficult position, how do you book the end of Joe and Lesnar? Sorry. That it becomes a very difficult thing when you have made Joe look so strong and so badass ever since this feud began. He has been managing to one-up Lesnar every single chance he's had. I mean, first of all, he takes out Paul Heyman. Then he takes the first throw at Brock Lesnar when they're standing eye to eye in the middle of the ring, and doesn't back down from him, which is not something that's, as likely from most of Brock Lesnar's opponents. I mean, there's always that little bit of fear. And so, when Joe does that, it really makes him look strong. And then this past Monday on Raw, Brock Lesnar was supposed to come out to call Joe out, and as he's coming down the ring, Joe comes from behind, locks him in a coquina clutch. Lesnar struggles to try to get out of it, even tossing Joe a couple times into the Titantron screens on the rampway there. Doesn't work. Joe manages to keep the coquina clutch on him, and he chokes Lesnar out. And my God, I don't know if these guys discussed it and said, hey, just choke me out for real, or if Lesnar's face just turns red the second that he has to start trying to breathe a little bit harder. But man, when Joe had him wrapped in that thing, you legitimately thought that Brock Lesnar was going to fade because his face turned purple. If you haven't seen the video, stop this right now. Quickly look up the video for what happened on Monday between Joe and Lesnar, and you'll see exactly what I mean. I mean, it was pretty chaotic. So. Cruiserweight action was up next. Lince Dorado taking on Neville. The bigger story here: Akira Tozawa at ringside, dressed all fancy, being announced as part of Titus Worldwide. Now that they've signed, Akira Tozawa is now Titus Worldwide. So yes, the Titus brand expanding. And with that said, Titus O'Neil saying that he has also managed to land a match for Akira Tozawa to take on Neville at Great Balls of Fire. So that'll be very interesting. Definitely adds an interesting dynamic, the fact that Titus can now be a factor in this whole situation. So is Neville's title at risk? I'm not too sure. I would think not. They've built the guy up so damn strong. But again, you never know when you've got somebody lurking on the outside what the possibilities truly are. So it definitely adds some very good intrigue and mystery. If this would have just been a straight up match granted to Akira Tozawa because of his recent victories and stuff like that, I think it would be an obvious booking that Neville was going to come out the victor. However, with Titus being a factor, now it makes for a dynamic where it's like, well, could Titus play a role? Could Titus cause a distraction? Could Titus cause the Neville level to be brought down? We're just going to have to wait and see. Great Balls of Fire should be an interesting match. They end the night on Monday Night Raw. Again, this week, a really powering week for women in wrestling, especially in the landscape of the WWE. Main eventing Raw, they main evented SmackDown, and tonight on NXT, it will be main evented by two women as well, too. So congratulations to the women of Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and the entire WWE. Very well deserved. So yes, this particular match, even though I'm praising the women for being able to main event things, I didn't really buy into this match all that much. Okay, here's my thoughts on it, you guys. If you've seen the match, you'll know where I'm going with this. They start the match off between Nia and Bayley, and we know that Bayley has been sinking. They need to make her look strong. At the same time, they've got this whole storyline going on with Nia Jax, and they know they can make her look strong already. So what do you do with this? At this point, you know, typical booking states that one of these two is probably running the gauntlet. And to me, I think the better booking decision would have been to have something happen in that first match between Nia and Bayley. Something where Nia ends up disqualified or counted out, to the point where, you know, Nia doesn't look weak, but at the same time Bayley manages to go on. I would then have had Bayley run the gauntlet until the final match, not having her squash anybody in particular, but having her really put up that strong fight. Having her only lose in the final, which, you know, would have redeemed Bayley quite a bit. I mean, they didn't make her look weak against Nia Jax, but, you know, eating another loss wasn't necessarily the best choice for her either. So, you know, we'll see where it goes. We'll see, you know, there's a lot of rumor about where Bayley's storylines are going right now, and they are not looking good. So hopefully they take a different direction with her. Either that or, you know, give her back to NXT. I'm sure they'd be happy. We'd be happy to see her over on NXT again. So guess we'll see. But anyways, it didn't go that way. Nia beats Bayley. Nia crushes the Mickie James, who, okay, oh my God, don't get me started on this whole thing. They make a big promo about, you know, the resurrection or the recreation of Mickie James or whatever it was when she came back. I was excited about it. I'm sure a lot of people were excited about it. And it has been nothing but the complete burial of Mickie James since her return. You know, this woman, you know, I don't want to say paved the way, but I mean, she trailblazed for a lot of what is going on currently in the landscape of WWE. She was a very talented woman that came in at a time where they started to look at women's wrestling a little bit differently. I mean, these weren't, you know, these gimmicky bullshit piss break matches that they used to do all the time. Mickie kind of, you know, she rose above that to become something special, and they bring her back, and, you know, I get her putting over young stars. That's fantastic. It's a credit to her, but I mean, they don't have to keep jobbing her out like she's the weakest person on the roster either, because then it just really discredits everybody that came before this current grouping. I mean, it's almost like you're saying, well, you know, these women are great, but they're so much better than the ones that came before them, because, you know, when Mickie James comes back and she's fit, ready to go, and you have her jobbing out easy matches all the time, it's not a good look for somebody of her stature. I think they could do a lot more with Mickie James, but needless to say, they didn't. Dana Brooke gets crushed. Not really any surprise. Emma gets beat again. You know, they could be doing more with Emma. They haven't done a lot to build her, but, you know, she's also not really been around that long. She's spent a lot of time on injury, so I understand them not wanting to take the ball and run with it on the Emma side of things right now. Sasha Banks picking up the big win at the end of the night when she defeated Nia Jax. So Sasha will take on Alexa Bliss at Great Balls of Fire. That should be a very interesting matchup. I think that it's good that Sasha's kind of getting back into that title picture now. Finally, she's had a break from it, so we can't say that we're sick of seeing her in that situation. So she's kind of earned her place back, which is good to see. She's rebuilt herself. So definitely will be interesting to see where they go with this match at Great Balls of Fire coming up. So yes, that was Monday Night Raw in a nutshell. So time for a change over to SmackDown Live. SmackDown Live again. A lot of the focus being on the women. The redo of the women's Money in the Bank because of General Manager Daniel Bryan. Carmella comes out at the top of the night, cuts a quite an interesting promo. Carmella definitely on her game with promos lately and mic work, so she's definitely been putting in a lot of hard work, obviously. Well deserving of the position she currently holds on SmackDown Live. Moving on from there, let's just talk briefly about some of the matches, or lack thereof matches, I guess, from the evening. The Usos, in quick fashion, defeat the Hype Bros. No further development of the Hype Bros as a storyline. They have unfinished business, yet they can't even hold a candle to the tag team champions. And no split up. There's nowhere where it was going. I think is a little disappointing. Hopefully they play on it soon, but honestly, if they weren't trying to shoehorn in the whole New Day thing into this thing, I think it would have been a perfect time for Zack Ryder to turn on Mojo, creating another new storyline and a new dynamic over on SmackDown Live. Instead, they have the New Day come out. The Usos drop their little promo. I shouldn't say little. It was a good promo. I like the Usos promos lately. They've been really well done. New Day and their typical shtick, running their mouths and stuff, and then a challenge and issue for Battleground. So yes, this is the start of getting to know what we will expect to see at Battleground, which is the SmackDown only pay-per-view coming up. So the New Day issues that challenge, the Usos accept the challenge, and then unfortunately we find out that next week on SmackDown we're going to have some sort of rap battle nonsense between the Usos and the New Day. Oh man, are WWE just wanting to give us a bunch of bathroom breaks? Because that's what that is to me. You might as well just have the goddamn Ball family come back out on SmackDown Live and start dropping some raps of their own. Like, this is getting stupid to the point of unbearable. I understand why so many people are getting frustrated with the product, because they don't want to invest the time to sit through the garbage to get to the good stuff. There is a lot of great stuff. I'm not one that likes to sit here and complain about everything WWE does all the time. I'm not going to be one of those people. But I will complain when they get things wrong. And, I think this is hokey and it's stupid. It's silly. It shouldn't be done. And I think both teams deserve to be treated with a little bit more respect. Yes, I know the New Day's kind of a goofy act at times, but these are guys that, longest reigning WWE Tag Team Champions in history, I think deserve something a little bit better than a rap off against the Usos. And the Usos have been excellent lately as a tag team. Again, I think that, they're missing the ball doing something like this. Really, they could have had, any kind of matchup next week and had interference happen. This is where you need to start building that tension between the two teams, them trying to one-up each other. That's just how I see it, I guess. What are your thoughts? Let me know. Not too sure how everybody else feels about it. Then, in further action, Naomi destroys Lana. Just all this hype, all this build about Lana. She comes out, she gives us a decent performance at Money in the Bank after everything that, all the doubters and stuff like that. And we're thinking, okay, here's somebody who's going to be in a legitimate challenge for the women's division over on SmackDown. And yet, this evening, I know they had to shovel a whole bunch of stuff in, but my God, I almost think that would they have been better off lessening, less is more kind of thing. If we would have cut out, say, a match or two from the night and done more focus on the women, we could have had, especially after a weekend where Netflix releases a show like Glow, we could have had a show that was heavily focused purely on the women's division. We wouldn't have been able to maybe fill the entire 2 hours. And I say we, I mean WWE shouldn't, might not have been able to fill the entire 2 hours, but I think that what they should have done is given more time to Naomi and Lana here in their particular match and cut something else completely, or lessen something else. Like, again, did Carmella need to come out at the top of the night and do her thing? Probably. So, maybe keep that. I'm just trying to look at my notes here to see if there's something that could have been cut. Like, yeah, and I'm gonna say Corbin versus Zayn. We could have cut out Corbin versus Zayn. We've seen it enough already. Currently, it could have been saved until next week and stuff like that. Give him more time for Naomi and Lana to do their thing. And yeah, but instead we got a squash match. Naomi squashing Lana. I mean, Naomi's looking great as champion. She's looking strong as champion, which is absolutely wonderful. Love to see that. But again, how does Lana bounce back from that? I know she's fresh, she's new, but I mean, it was a squash. There's no other way to put it. Squash. How do you bounce back from a squash without being the person who has the money in the bank briefcase themselves? Not sure. So, anyways, as I was saying, Corbin versus Zayn was up next, but it didn't happen right away. Mike and Maria come out with their little theme music, and they're going to run their mouths. Maria talking about how she's the first lady of WWE, and just as she does, Sami Zayn's music kicks in, and he cuts right between the two of them, and that's all we see of Mike and Maria. We see them briefly at Money in the Bank. Haven't seen them since. They come out for this tiny little segment. What's the deal, WWE? Where are you going with these two? What's the plans for them? Are you gonna put them into something meaningful, or are they just gonna come out and become a laughable joke that gets interrupted all the time? Guess we'll find out. Anyways, Corbin defeating Zayn. Decent match. Nothing too big or noteworthy. I want to move on to a segment. Randy Orton came out. He RKO'd Aiden English, who was in the ring singing. Put a chair down, said that he wasn't leaving the ring till he gets what he wants. And what he wants is a rematch against Jinder Mahal. Typically, you would think he's been beat twice. He shouldn't be getting a rematch. But again, they want to extend this feud a little bit further because they have a gimmick match in mind. So the rumor ended up being true. So yes, Orton granted a rematch as per Commissioner Shane McMahon, but with the stipulation that Jinder Mahal would be able to pick the stipulation for the match at Battleground. Jinder Mahal stating that he wanted to pick a match that was made famous by a hero of his, the great Khali, and that is the Punjabi prison match. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be talking about this one, folks. The Punjabi prison match, if you have not seen the original Punjabi prison match, you might want to avoid it. I mean, it was not good, but then again, neither was the great Khali. I mean, he seems like he was a nice guy and everything, and probably a lot of guys respect him as a person, but he was not a great in-ring talent by any means. So yes, it was not something memorable where you were going to see this Punjabi prison brought back time and time again. Until now. Now we have a legitimate person who might make the Punjabi prison match more interesting. And so between him and Randy Orton, between Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton in that Punjabi prison match at WWE Battleground, I think we might get the Punjabi prison match that we deserve to get in the first place. The idea, the structure itself is unique and interesting. The only downfall I can see, I mean, these are 3 cages of a bamboo type stick or whatever being weaved in. It is a cage, but at the same time, there is 3 of them. It probably, especially for a live crowd, if you're not sitting in the upper seats, are probably going to have a hell of a time seeing what's going on. Just because of the fact that there is a lot of cage to try to get your eyes through to get to the competitors themselves. So I mean, it would almost be a shame in a sense to be watching the main event of Battleground and you're bragging about how great your seats are, but here's this Punjabi prison and you can't even see through it properly. Needless to say, if you've ever been to a live show, you're probably at that point in the night not giving a flying fuck about what you're seeing, and you're probably just having a good old time getting rowdy and crazy with all the other members of the WWE universe anyway. So I'm not trying to say don't go if you're in the area to see Battleground. Definitely go, because we want to see a ruckus crowd on television. I always enjoy watching the crowds that are rowdy, so go there, be rowdy, be loud, be proud. Enjoy watching Randy Orton lose again to Jinder Mahal. I love saying that because it's going to piss a lot of you off, and that's okay with me. I mean, that's what wrestling's about. Get under people's skin, do what you can. Alright, so now on from there, main event time. Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, part 2. Part 2. Didn't someone say once that sequels are not always better? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to get put things straight, this was not a bad match by any means. I mean, it was on par with their first one. I'm gonna say my biggest problem is, I mean, it sucks watching this kind of stuff on television because of commercials and time limitations. It's just not as magical in a sense. It kind of kills the allure for us watching at home as opposed to those experiencing it as a live experience. I don't feel like the ladders were used a lot or very much as elements of destruction at all. Like, I mean, there was a few spots off the ladders, but they became very similar, and that was my whole issue with it, you know. And then things like Natalia using the sharpshooter in a match where she knows there's other women lurking. I mean, you know, you can't submit your opponent. I know, like they said, oh yeah, she's trying to take out the leg. Yeah, but again, there's easier ways to take out somebody's leg in a matchup than putting a sharpshooter on them and stuff like that. So, you know, I mean, you could go use a weapon. You could use a ladder. Use a ladder to smash somebody's leg in. At least then you got a fucking ladder in your hand, so if somebody comes at you, hit them with a fucking ladder. You know, again, sorry for the F-bombs, but my god, it's like, I just don't understand the idea of using moves like submissions in a match where you can use other elements, and the other elements aren't being used all that much, you know. Again, I was expecting at least like one of these women to do something off the ladders. Like, there had to be something that was coming from it, and not really, other than the odd shove off the ladder. And usually when they're shoved off the ladder, it wasn't from any extremely big height by any means. I think the sickest spot of the entire night was the power bomb that Natalia delivered on Becky Lynch, which to me was probably one of the most memorable things about the entire match, because it looked like she broke her in half. I mean, it was fun to watch, only in the sense that we know that the two of them did it well and that nobody got seriously hurt or anything like that. But my God, did Natalia hit that with some force. So in the end, Carmella picking up the win again. James Ellsworth came out. He tried to pull his same old shtick. He got pushed off the ladder. And I should mention James Ellsworth taking one of the sickest bumps in the entire night. Off the ladder, onto the ropes, into his groinal area, and then back to the outside. From there, that spot, it would never be easy for anyone to take. It would hurt like a bitch. It's gonna hurt. Put it that way. It hurts. Plain and simple. And James Ellsworth took it like a pro. But yeah, ultimately in the end, Becky Lynch was trying to go back up the ladder. Was playing on the fact that she had a sore knee. Carmella comes in, attacks her with a steel chair. Carmella climbs the ladder and becomes Miss Money in the Bank. So, was it worth it? Was it worth all of this to get to the same damn result in the end? Personally, I don't think so. And where do we go from here? Where does it all go from here? Are we setting up for a feud between Becky Lynch and Carmella going into Battleground? Who's Naomi gonna line up a title shot against? Like, where does this all go? I mean, it looks like Charlotte and Natalia are likely to end up in a feud together. So Naomi, I can't imagine we're gonna get another Lana versus Naomi match. So, you know, are we gonna get Tamina versus Naomi? You know, it's not very clear at this point, but I guess there's a lot of time before Battleground actually happens. So we'll have to just wait and see, I guess, is what the answer to that is. Anyway, that was Raw and SmackDown in a nutshell. This is definitely my longest recording I've ever done. We are just approaching the 40-minute mark. So if you have managed to stay with me for this entire time, thank you very much for your dedication. I appreciate it. Hopefully, I did a good job giving you the lowdown of what happened in WWE this week. Hopefully, NXT will interest a lot of you tonight. Remember that tonight on NXT, the women's title is on the line. As Asuka will defend against Nikki Cross in a last woman standing match. Yes, so that should be interesting. I'll definitely be tuning in. I hope you're all tuning in. If you are, make sure give me a shout out on Twitter. Let's get the Twitter train rolling tonight here during NXT. Let me know what you're thinking of the events tonight. And again, if you're watching this on Twitter, please retweet this. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel and give me a like below. That would be much appreciated. So I will probably be out until next week. I'm thinking Tuesday. I might even be not putting something up until Wednesday of next week, folks, because with Canada Day, I am going to be going with the missus out to the lake and some friends of ours. So yes, we are going to go and take some time to relax. Relax is something I definitely need to do. I ended up picking up a bit of a foot injury over the weekend, so I have been out of commission. I am notorious for feet injuries. I've done it many times before, so this has definitely been a disheartening few days for me. Definitely because I've been told that there isn't a whole lot holding my ankles together properly on the one side, on the left side where I re-injured. And so the doctor wants me to avoid any real high impact sports. Anyone who knows me closely knows that I come from a lot of love for the world of soccer because I have played and coached. This is where I picked up most of my ankle injuries in the first place. And that I was recently doing in-ring training to be a manager. Unfortunately, it looks like that dream is going to be coming to a bit of an end because with what the doctor said, it looks like I won't be able to do anything of high impact. I'm going to have to take it easy. Definitely going to keep up trying to remain fit. I was definitely on a great roll with dropping weight and definitely getting in some of the better shape I've been in a long time. So I'm definitely not going to lose that hope. But we'll see where everything goes, I guess, from there. So yeah, a little disheartening, a little heartbreaking when you something that you love so much just gets out of your reach by a little bit like that. So, but to anybody out there that's listening, definitely always try your best and keep up with your dreams. I hope that you follow them and live up to every expectation you ever have. Don't let anything ever hold you down. I allowed that to happen too much in my life, and I regret ever doing it. I could have done so much more in my younger years, and I pissed those opportunities away. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm at that age where it's a little bit harder for me to do the things I wanted to do back then. Needless to say, I did do some in-ring training a little bit. I shouldn't say much. I've taken some bumps and everything recently, and it made me feel good. It made me feel good about myself to get in there and try. So, if you're listening to this, and even if you're thinking that you're getting too old or something, you know what? You're never necessarily too old. Injuries can be a setback in that sense, and the older you get, the injuries get harder. So, yes, if you're injury prone like me, it can be a little bit more impossible. But never give up, like Cena says, and do your best. If you have a dream, chase that dream. And I definitely want to hear from all of you. So leave me a comment. Feel free to message me on Twitter anytime. I'm here for you. Until next time, Top Guy out.